threes on the Enneagram are tricky, right? Because so many of your relationships, and this is also part of your age, right? If we think about what Arthur Brooks says, right? There are real friends and there are deal friends.
Right.
For a lot of threes, there's a ton of deal friends and not many real friends. A deal friend is someone who can help you on your own sort of professional, personal journey. And they're normal. They're not a bad thing. There's nothing on them. But you got to have some real friends. People who you love and know you intimately, and they don't have any vested interest in, knowing Ken Coleman, getting on the Ken Coleman show. Like, you know what I mean? Or they're not there to make a deal. They're not playing golf and also looking to do something with you professionally. Right. You know what I mean, right?
Well, you told me about, you mentioned this to me one time in one of our conversations, probably was on your show, and I got real intentional to make sure that I was surrounding myself with more of those real friends.
Yes.
And as a result of it, I can tell you that, and I'm telling you this as a validation. I hope our audience gets something from this.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have found rewarding over being intentional about that is having friends that they just don't care about any of this. Right. Meaning they will celebrate me as any normal friend would, but when we're together, we never talk about my work.
Yeah.
They largely could care less about the platform that is associated with my work.
So I got this friend of mine. We were out to dinner last night, right? And I will tell you who it is because you know who it is, and he would love that I tell this story.
Okay, this is even better.
Do you know Buddy Green?
Yes.
Okay, so
not really well,
so
but
Buddy Green is a songwriter, and he is a virtuoso harmonica player. Wrote the song "Mary, Did You Know?" I mean, he's like just an amazing guy, right? Yeah. He's a harmonica player,
right?
Now, I love Buddy. We go out and talk regularly. Do you know what I said to Buddy one time a couple weeks ago? I said, you know what I love about our friendship is that you are useless to me.
Yeah, and I know what you mean by that. That's
exactly.
Great.
He's useless to me.
Yeah.
Harmonica,
can't advance you at all.
I'm an author and I'm a therapist, harmonica. I got nothing where we're going to make a deal here. You know what I mean? I just love Buddy because Buddy's heart is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And he's so smart and so well-read. And we talk about things that have nothing to do with the harmonica or the Enneagram. I don't even think Buddy knows his Enneagram type. I've never asked him. Right. It's not anything to do with our life. Well, all that matters to me about Buddy is, how do I help Buddy's soul become a more beautiful representation of God's presence in the world? And I think he thinks that way about me.
Yeah.
And last night the four of us had dinner, and I cried and my wife cried about some stuff going on in our lives. They listened, you know what I mean? And it had nothing to do, nowhere in the back of my mind was I thinking, gee, I wonder if Buddy could help me get a speaking gig at X place. Maybe how do I subtly bring that into the conversation? That's a deal friend.
Yeah, it is. And the flip side of that, I think, is you also aren't worried about pretenses.
No.
When you're hanging out with the real friend, you can cry and snot and be insecure and do that kind of stuff.
At the Green Hills Grill even.
Yes, that's exactly right. As long as you have a nice napkin, But you don't do that when you're hanging around with deal friends because you're putting your best foot forward. I'd liken that to Instagram. Right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that's the flip side of that. And that to me is... is the cure to loneliness. You got to have some people who just love you and value you, regardless of your superlatives.
So I'm just going to say, in the book, there's this passage where I talk about who's my spiritual hero. It's Pinocchio. Pinocchio is my spiritual hero.
Okay.
If you've ever seen Pinocchio, you know how the story goes, right? He's this puppet, right, that is created. And what does he want more than anything else? To be a real boy.
Yep.
He wants to be real. And he goes out and he has all these crazy misadventures, right? And if you remember them from the movie, right, he goes to Stromboli's circus. He becomes, right, he tries everything. He goes on Pleasure Island. Oh my gosh, this is my story, okay? He goes to Pleasure Island. He goes on a circuit. He does all this crazy stuff. And every time he's screwing up his life, just screwing up his life, right? And then what happens? He has to go save Geppetto, his creator, right, who's been swallowed by a whale. But in the process, who has to die? Pinocchio.
Yeah.
So Pinocchio dies saving Geppetto, and that's when, I know this is crazy, everybody, but the blue fairy brings him back to life. And who died? That part of Pinocchio that needed to die in order to become real.
Yes.
And we need communities like 12-step communities and friendships where we can go on our crazy misadventures, make all kinds of mistakes. They welcome us back every time, and they help us to become real men and women. And if you don't have that in your life, you are indeed dangerously lonely. If you don't have a community where you can, because that's a cycle that everybody's on. Everybody's on the journey of trying to become a real man and a real woman. And we go looking for ways to do it of our own making that end up causing chaos and problems. But what has to die at the center of us is that self-centered, egotistical part of us that needs to die so that the real us can come out. And that happens in community.